Choo is a tiny framework weighing in at 5K. An example of some of the things that drew me to Choo are the single state model, a super tiny API, also how HTML templates are handled, and more. Let's build a simple counter to get familiar with Choo. I've already created a counter.js file, so the next step is to import Choo and choo.html. We can instantiate Choo into a const called app. And now we can call the model function and pass in an object. This object is expected to have several potential properties, such as namespace, state, reducers, effects, and subscriptions. We'll only worry about two right now, state and reducers. Let's add a state with a counter property, and our counter will have a starting value of 0. Next, let's add reducers. Reducers take data, modify it, and update the app state. We need two reducers, one that decrements and one that increments. Each reducer takes in data, which is an optional payload, and state, which is the current state of our app. We now need a place to show our state. So let's create a main view function that takes in state, the previous state, and the sim function. And now let's add two buttons. Let's put our counter value in a div. We call it by using the $, curly braces, and state.counter. Just a few more things before we can see our app in the browser. We need to set up a router, and we just need one path that routes to our main view. Finally, let's render our app. We can create a const called tree, and it will hold the return value from app.start. Let's append our tree to the document body. Right now, our reducers don't do anything. So heading back to our reducers, this is where we're going to update state. So inside of dec, we will return an object with the counter property decremented by 1. Likewise, we will do the same with increment, except for it will increment by 1. Now all that's left to do is actually install Choo, and we'll also grab Budo as a dev server. You can install Budo as a global, but I'm very tight with what I install globally. So I've already set it up to run in npm start. Whoops, I can see I have an error. I forgot a comma. Looks like one more issue, and yet again, forgot a comma. All right, we're building. Our view is displaying, but we haven't wired up any actions yet. Let's do that. We need to add an on-click to each one of our buttons. We can use an arrow function. Then we can call the send function we passed into the top of our view. Send is expecting two parameters, the action name that refers to one of our reducers and the payload. The payload is optional. We don't currently have or need a payload, so we'll just call the reducer by name. Let's verify that works. Perfect. The last thing I want to do is add something to stop the counter from going into the negative. This logic should live in the reducer. Let's add a simple if to check if the counter is less than or equal to 0. If so, we return the counter. If not, we decrement the counter. This was a simple app, but hopefully this has gotten you excited about Choo. There are still many more exciting things that we can explore, so keep a lookout for future videos.